So, I've been asked to look at this thing. It's a valve phono preamplifier, and I believe it's a Chinese copy of a German design. And I think the original German design was, got it written down, Klimo. I've got a schematic for it, but I'm not even sure that is correct for this particular item, but we'll find out. I know some things on it are not the same. Now the complaint with this is that it is noisy. Well, I'm not totally convinced about that. By their very nature, they're quite high gain phono preamplifiers, and you add noise when you've got so much gain. For instance, if I demonstrate my phono amplifier on my amplifier over here, if I crank up the volume, right, I don't know if you can hear that. Let's put the volume nearly full way up with nothing connected to the input sockets on the preamplifier. So I'm going to wind that down again. Now this thing has got two separate inputs for moving magnet or moving coil, and moving coil is a lower output normally off the cartridge. So in this schematic we have an extra gain stage for the moving coil input, which is switched for a relay. Otherwise, if you're using moving magnet, it just comes straight into the next valve. And so let's try it now on, I'm going to go in on one of the line 8 inputs, and I'm on moving, what am I on? Yeah, I'm on moving magnet, because there's a switch on the back, the switch between the two. I've got a record deck connected but not actually switched on, so I'm going to turn up the volume now. Yeah, the noise is there. I don't know if you can hear that. I'll hold the microphone by the speaker. It's got noise, but it's no worse than the noise coming out of my main amplifier on the phono input. But see, I don't know enough about these things. I don't know if they should be totally silent. Anyway, let's try it on, turn it down again. See, that's nearly cranked up all the way around to get that amount of noise, that volume control. So I think I'm going to try it now on moving coil, and it will be noisier. So now that's on moving coil, and it's definitely louder. As I said, it's got an extra gain stage in it. I'll take the microphone over there. Try the other one. But you know, you got that volume control cranked up really high now. That would be absolutely deafening if it was a record playing. And The other thing I've noticed, and he's also noticed, is well, he did say that the noise is worse on one channel than the other, and I think I can detect a slight difference. But what I've noticed more than that is that the when you play a record, it's slightly louder on one channel than the other, and that doesn't seem to matter whether you're going in on moving coil or moving magnet. I haven't got a cartridge for moving coil, but so I'm just going to have to use my normal moving magnet cartridge. But I could play something. Whether that would help, I don't know. I'll just get the record going. Okay, I'm just playing a random record. I'm going to turn the volume up now. Back on moving magnet input.
Those big sad eyes, when it must have been a mirage, as I was up in the backdrops, just waiting for something.
I think there was one of those speakers was louder, and if I listen on headphones, it's definitely more noticeable on headphones. I could do the test again with going into the moving coil input, but really I didn't detect any noise. Okay, there's not many quiet passages on that record, but unless you were actually telling me to look for noise, which this person is, I really can't hear anything. Right, I'm going to do the same test with the moving coil input. Okay, let's go ahead with the other input. To me that sounds fine. Obviously I'm getting a bit more volume because it's got a more sensitive input, and I'd only had the volume control up to about a quarter. I don't know. Well, what I'm going to do, because this isn't a very controlled environment, testing it like this, I'm going to get it in the workshop and shove a low level signal into it and check to see what see if the outputs are that one output is louder than the other one. That's all I can do with it. But I'm not sure about this noise. It's also supposed to be crackling. I've not heard any crackling. Okay, I haven't had it on for hours and hours and hours, but I've heard no crackling so far. That's all I can say. Let's have a quick look inside of it. Apologies, because the lighting's poor. I'm not set up for doing video productions in the lounge. So we got two channels. That is the moving coil amplifier, and then there's relays that switch between that extra gain stage and the next stage, which is for the moving magnet. And then you've got some output valves, which I think are basically cathode followers And I mean, they've gone to a lot of extremes when they've made this. They really tried to do a decent job on this circuit, whether they were Chinese or whoever they were. And they've actually employed regulators for the heaters, for an individual regulator for each heater, which is quite unbelievable. And I'm not quite sure what that regulator down there does, but might find out one day. So over here we've got another chip valve, and for some bizarre, mysterious reason they're using that as the high voltage rectifier. What's wrong with 4007s? I don't see the point in going to old technology just because it's a valve amp. But whatever. There's also a transistor there, which I think regulates the high voltage, yeah. So that's what we've got. And we could look at the schematic if we really want to. Don't know where the best place is to look at this, like this. So we got the input there for the moving coil, and for some reason they paralleled the two parts of the valve together. That I don't understand, although the cathodes are not paralleled. The grids are basically paralleled through 100 ohms resistor to the moving coil input. Then you've got a moving magnet input, and that's switched via the relay between moving coil and moving magnet. And then we've got something else going on here. I think we've got a gain stage and then a cathode follower, and maybe some RIAA, whatever it's called, equalization going on. And then we got another, what looks like a gain stage, followed by a cathode follower. But I'm not a valve person. They never taught me all this stuff at school. I was brought up in an era of when valves were just about finished. Well, we assumed they were. And we were only taught transistors. But I have worked on valve stuff fairly successfully when there's been a definite fault that you can see, like a burnt out resistor, or measure like a burnt out resistor. But it's when it comes to something a bit more obscure like this, I think I'm struggling a bit. And what we've got down here, which is quite interesting, is they're using, on this circuit, they're using 7806s, and 3 of them. Well, for the heaters, well, there's actually 6, and then on this board, and they're using LM317s for some reason. And then I believe there's some regulation here for the HT. It says 265 volts here, and we've got some diodes times 10 to set the voltage on that transistor. But all in all, this is going to be quite a high gain amplifier, isn't it? And I would expect noise. But what do I know? If I had another one to compare it with, then I could understand if it was faulty or not. And the other thing I can do is try swapping valves from one channel to the other, if the one channel is louder than the other one. That's a possibility. But I think the next step is to get it into the workshop anyway, with a controlled signal going into it. Oh, by the way, the record was Closets and Bullets by the Motels. I bet you've never heard of that group. They actually played in Stroud, would you believe? Many, many years ago. Anyway, but I think I'll get it into the workshop now. Okay, so out in the workshop where I can do some proper controlled tests, and I'm inputting 1 kilohertz, 1 millivolt sine wave into the moving magnet inputs, and I'm monitoring left and right outputs, right being on the yellow trace, just hear it on the amplifier. That's the left channel, which is lower than the right channel. So let's have a look at the scope. Bit of reflection, probably the best I'm going to do. So we have a massive difference, more than I expected. On the right channel I have 2.7 volts, and on the left channel only 250 millivolts. That is quite a considerable difference, and it didn't sound that much when I was testing it before, but obviously there is quite a big difference. Once I worked it out somewhere, yeah, 10 dBs of difference between the left and the right, which is not good, is it? And I also worked out what the gain was. With 1 millivolt input and 2.7 volts output, that's 68 dBs of gain on the moving magnet input, and that'll be even more on the moving coil input. So what I'm going to do now, and I've already done this, but I'll do it again, I'm going to swap the two output valves, because I believe the problem is in the output, because the signals going into the valves look the same from the preceding stage or stages. And yeah, let's swap the valves. I'll do that, I'll turn it off and do that. Well, I have to say I'm a bit mystified, because I'm sure I did this and I was still getting the same problem when I swapped the valves over, but now what was the bad channel is now the good channel. In other words, the left channel is now a lot bigger signal than the right channel. I'm a bit perplexed, because I'm sure I swapped those valves yesterday and I didn't notice any difference, leading me to think it was something in the components around the particular channel that was bad. But what I was getting in voltage is here. So everything was the same on both channels apart from the cathode. Got 180 volts there, 52-ish there on those two anodes. And the cathode of the left channel, which was the bad one, I was getting 81 volts, and on the good channel, the right channel is the good channel, 53 volts. So let me check that now, and if I stick the meter and I can stop this moving. Right, so I go on the left channel, cathode, and I'm getting 53 volts. What was I getting before? Yeah, I was getting 81 volts before I swapped the valve. And on the rod channel, I'm now getting 81 volts. Whereas before, I was getting 53 volts. So, my conclusion is that the valves one of the valves is bad. I've got no valve testers. I don't do valves very often. All the other voltages check out okay around the valve. And well, we could look at the signal going in if I remove those two. Get rid of the second channel on the scope. The signal going in should be pin 2. Pin 2. Difficult working around camera. Well, that's on the left channel. Well, it was, until it fell off. Okay, that's the left channel. It's very small, but it's probably what I expect. And let's go to the right channel. So it's the same, basically the same signal going into the valve. And it comes out on the anode at pin 1. Which is massive. That's on the right channel, 2.89. On the left channel, basically the same. But the cathode, pin 8, left channel, pin 8. On the right channel is really low. I think I need to think about this, but I think that means it's got a bad valve. Because originally I didn't suspect the valve. I must have, maybe I got them mixed up when I swapped them, but I don't think I did. And they're bloody hard to get out of the sockets as well. The whole board bends when you try and pull them out and put them back in again. And they're actually not that hot. Not too hot. So that's a bad channel when it'll stay on. That channel's now the right channel. I'll wiggle the valve a bit in its socket. I don't think there's much wrong there. I was all set to actually pull this board out and kind of reverse engineer it a bit, because I'm not convinced I've got the right value components on this schematic. I think I'm going to upload this now and see what anybody thinks of it, and then come back to it when I've had a good think. I haven't got any valves to swap anyway, because I don't do valves normally. I think I possess one valve only. Where is it? It won't be the right one, I guarantee that. Oh, it's too big anyway. It's an EL84. Well, we won't put that in it, will we? That came from another project. I've no idea what project that was. I suppose it could have been my friend's amplifier. Anyway, I'm going to upload this video because I've got to think about all this and see what the owner thinks about it as well, if he watches it. So bye for now.